Welcome to Blue Collar ICs, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on interventional cardiology. Hosted by Jordy Collada, Bill Dixon, Brian Brown, and Todd Floor, this is where real doctors talk real work. From the cath lab to complex cases, new devices, and hard-earned lessons, these are the conversations that don't happen in textbooks. No hype, no fluff. Just experience, expertise, and straight talk. Welcome to the conversation. This is Blue Collar ICs.
Welcome into another edition of Blue Collar ICs. Looking forward to interacting and talking to our audience about tonight's topic, when we're going to dive into recruiting, finding that next generation of interventional cardiologists to help us out with the conversation. Two of our experts that we have on every single week. Love the conversation. Coming off of a great victory last night at Soldier Field, a comeback win for the Chicago Bears. The Bear down, baby.
Was never in doubt.
The Packers looked like they had it. It looked like they had them strangled for three quarters, and then Caleb Williams and Coach Johnson put together a ferocious comeback and a wild victory. And I know Dr. Brown is celebrating that. And we've also got Dr. Dixon here to help us out with our conversation this week. Quick shout out to our production team, John Jopling and the Real Works Media, as they keep us on time and do great work for us every single week. So I want to make sure to recognize John. But Docs, good afternoon. Dr. Brown, congratulations.
So I just want to say before we start, I was at the Panthers game, and I thought I might see two losses tonight, Panthers and Bears, but Panthers fought ferociously. I was pretty amazed that they almost won the game. And then we get to the bar afterward with 20 of our friends from town, and I thought, boy, this doesn't look good. And then, boom, pulled it out. So it was a lovely evening.
An amazing fourth quarter at Soldier Field last night. One that if you were there or if you were in a bar with 20 friends, you'll probably be talking about for a long, long time. We'll see if Chicago can put together a lot on the line this afternoon with Philadelphia and San Francisco.
Who does Chicago play next?
Well, it just depends on on who wins. So this Philly-San Francisco game that's happening as we record right now will have big implications on what happens next for the Bears. So we'll be paying attention there. But as we said coming in, tonight's topics are recruiting. Speaking of sports and kind of the similarities of sports and the profession that we're in with the medical field, you guys are always looking for that next crop of caretakers, of physicians, of finding the next great minds. What goes into finding the next generation of interventional cardiologists, just from your standpoint? We'll start with you, Dr. Dixon.
All right. I first said I want to neglect to point out that I've been an Indiana Hoosier fan for many years now. Jump on that bandwagon. So Brian and I talked about this a little bit. It is becoming harder and harder to hire people, both interventional and non-invasive EP. But one of the things that stimulated this episode was, I guess for the second year in a row, there's been a formal match process to fill interventional cardiology training spots. I was unaware that they had a match, but this was the second year, and 97% of applicants matched training, but 71 slots went unfilled in 49 programs. So a lot of current operators are over 60. And so there's going to be a drought of docs to begin with everywhere, but there are a lot of concerns about interventional cardiology. So there's some reasons that are thrown out there for that. But one thing I'm kind of seeing is there are generational differences between, the way I trained and work and Brian and people coming out of training. They were in training at some, if they were in med school during COVID, that impacted their training experience. There are regulations about how many hours you can work as a resident, which doesn't really translate to real life. And so as they come out and they want to get a really high paying job and they want a work-life balance and they want a lot of weekends off and they want to leave when they're post-call. And that's the way they were trained. So that can be a challenge. So what are your initial thoughts, Brian?
So first, I'll just educate a little bit about the match versus non-match. So when I was in med school, and maybe it was different for you, Bill, we entered the match, but by the time we got to interventional cardiology, there was no so-called match. So the match is a process where you interview and then you rank your top programs, and then that program ranks their top applicants, and then all at the same time, boom, everybody gets a job or doesn't get a job. Interventional cardiology, when I applied, was not a match. So you go around to interview and say a program likes you. They call you and they're like, hey, we want you. Will you accept this position? You're like, well, I mean, I'd love to, but I haven't finished interviewing. I have like 12 more programs to get interviewed. And like, well, if you don't want the job, we'll move on. And you're like, okay, yeah, I'll take the job. So that's the difference between a match and a non-match. But now that there's a match, you can actually see the data about who applied, got their jobs, how many spots were there, whereas before it was a little more nebulous. Now, as far as doing the job, this is something, that we can certainly talk about, but I can't imagine why people wouldn't want to do our jobs, but I do understand the reasons why.
In the sporting world, you're recruiting facilities, you're recruiting coaches around you, personnel around you, you're recruiting, what the benefits to the individual will be if they are on that campus. What are you recruiting? What are the recruiting tools that you and the hospitals are using?
Our challenges are more than just recruiting. It's actually people going into the field, period. That is a big topic, but Bill's been hiring longer than I am. I'll tell you about my experience from the private world to being hospital employed and recruiting, but Bill, tell me about your recruiting process.
Well, one thing I tell all the applicants or candidates is, well, when I was looking for a job, I really had 3 criteria. And am I going to be busy because I don't want to have to fight for work? Am I going to like where I live? And is my family going to like where I live? And, am I going to like the people I work with? The last one, you don't really know until you get on the ground. Everybody's nice in an interview. The bigger the group, the less likely you are to have, personality conflicts that are a deal breaker. If you're in a really small group, that could be complicated. So for our program, I try and push the fact that we have a variety of things that you can do. We do complex coronary, peripheral, pulmonary embolism. We do structural heart disease. So there's a lot of variety. You have a lot of senior support. So you're not on an island. And we don't tell you how to do things. We kind of give you a framework, but you do what you feel comfortable doing, and we're here to help. Also, in my practice, the interventional cardiologists don't do general call, which means we're not answering office calls at night. We're taking STEMI call. Now, we come in more than anybody, and I'm on STEMI call 5 to 7 times a month. So I'm on call this weekend. And then what does your community have outside of work? Salary is always a big thing. Everybody wants to know how much you're going to get paid. And the way salary typically works is there's some guarantee. You're guaranteed to make no less than a certain amount. And that's all they think about, the candidates. They just, what's the number? But, really it's a year or two in practice. And if you're in private practice, when you become partner, where that should be much higher than your guarantee. So I've also heard lately that candidates care more about salary than location. So they're willing to work anywhere if they get paid a lot, and they'll just take good vacations.
So, when I came to my program, it was private practice, and I took heavy interest in recruiting. And I was kind of surprised at our dinners that really nobody would talk to the candidates about procedural work. Like, I'm the only one asking people questions about, well, what would you do in this scenario, or how would you do that? And I was an outlier asking people that. And I don't think that's wrong to ask people, but, if they're like, hey, I'm jazzed about rotoblader, I want to use it in every case. You're like, all right, well, calm down, you'll get there. But now as a hospital employee, where I do care who my partners are, but it's a little different. We just need essentially bodies that are willing to show up and do work or be a good citizen. If they're not, and this is going to sound bad to say, but if they're not an absolute stud, that's fine. We just need you to be safe and show up to work and do your job. And even that's hard to find. So essentially right now, any applicant can get a job really anywhere they want. So it's very tough.
It's a buyer's market.
Yes.
Why the drought, in your opinion?
Well, this goes that they're not filling spots. So there's not enough interventional cardiologists. There's not enough general cardiologists. There's not enough people going into the field. And that has something to do with lifestyle, I believe. You know, when I was in med school, I wanted to do multiple different things, and you start worrying about lifestyle. Well, can I really have a family if I'm this surgeon that's doing X, Y, Z? And going into interventional cardiology has that same sort of stigma, the call, the clinical burden, all that sort of stuff. But realistically, if you get into a good group with enough people, you're not going to be on call that often, and you're going to have good work-life balance despite your productivity. Your productivity doesn't indicate how many hours you're working. It indicates how efficient you are in the hours you're there.
Yeah, some other things is traditionally interventional cardiology was just coronary work when I trained and as Brian was training, but now it's structural heart and probably more peripheral opportunities as well. I think some of your larger metropolitan areas start to get saturated, or a practice gets saturated where we don't need a structural guy. We don't need a peripheral guy. We want somebody that does coronary work. And a lot of the people to go into intervention want to do what they consider the sexy stuff, when a majority of what we do is coronary. So I think that may be part of it. You know, the training is just 1 year beyond cardiology. That's not a big deal. I think work-life balance is hammered into the residents, and so I kind of say work hard, play hard, and then it's simple math. If you're one of 2 interventionalists in a group, then you're on call 50% of the time, and that absolutely sucks. And I did that for many years.
That's a terrible job, by the way, Jordy. Yes. You don't want to be on call Q2. Roster.
So if you have 12 interventionalists in your group, then you're not going to be on call very often, but you may not be very busy either because you're splitting the work 12 ways. So we have 5 interventionalists, which is about perfect. Call is manageable, and there's enough work. We would entertain a 6 just for doing satellite offices and that kind of thing.
But Jordy, that's because Bill's practice has a lot of general cardiologists.
Yeah.
So our practice has 9 interventional cardiologists, 4 electrophysiologists, and 2.5-ish general cardiologists. So all of the interventionalists are general cardiologists. And so despite we having 4 more interventionalists than they do, everybody's busy, does a lot of work, and you can get in a scenario where maybe there's not enough work, but you have to branch out, do other things, but everybody's busy. I mean, I literally did 45 cases in a week, which is like more than most people do in a month in this country. But
yeah,
it's sad to me that people don't want to come where I'm at, to be honest. There's a lot of volume, and I'm working hard enough. And
people, the reps come to our place, and I may do, for me, a busy day is like 11.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I'm physically sore if I do 11 cases. But it's pretty typical to do 6, 7 when I'm in the lab. Some places do 2,
How many days a week are there cases? Is it 5?
7.
I mean, for you individually?
I did 3 today and I did 2 yesterday. Well, actually, I did 2 plus a STEMI yesterday evening and 3 today.
If you're on call on the weekend, Jordy, you're doing cases. We don't have scheduled cases on the week. Those are scheduled during the week. Well, we don't only do emergencies on the weekend, because if you don't do not urgent cases by Monday, there'll be too many cases to do, and those people get pushed to Tuesday. And now you've taken a 2-day admission and stretched it into a 4 or 5-day admission, which in my opinion is not right. So you need to do non-urgent stuff on Saturday and Sunday. You also need to be mindful of your staff and not wear them out. But you have to.
Yeah, I did an organ donor yesterday. Somebody that needed their heart checked that may be donating organs. So yeah, I think there's a lot of places still, and a lot of academic places that don't cath on the weekend. But you would get crushed on Monday. You would get absolutely crushed on Monday, and you get the people out of the hospital faster.
Well, Bill, you are or are not hiring right now?
We are hiring, looking for a 5th interventional cardiologist. We have 5. One guy's moving, so we want to fill that spot. And
So
have
you interviewed anyone for that spot?
No. I've talked to a guy that expressed some interest who our group knows, and then I talked to another guy on the phone who had already pretty much decided on a job. So we've just started advertising for it.
And what would you rather do? Hire a new grad or hire someone that's been in practice?
It doesn't matter to me, to be honest. I just want to hire somebody that's good. Like our most recent hire is right out of training. He's outstanding. I mean, he's doing great. You can get somebody that's 50 that doesn't do very good work and doesn't work hard. So it doesn't matter to us. We have enough seniority that we're happy to help somebody coming right out of training. We actually need some young guys in the group.
We actually would rather hire new grads, and I know that's not fair to everybody out there, but you can train them in your local culture, and I think that's kind of superior to bringing someone in that maybe doesn't see eye to eye with everybody. I don't like that.
You could have more of a hand on the molding process of the income.
Or like, say they don't have experience in a particular procedure, but you say, hey, we do this here and we want everybody to do this here, and we're happy to train you to do this here. So if you're open to that, we'd like you to do that. For instance, everybody comes out, they got to do STEMIs. That's our bread and butter. You got to do coronary work, but there's other things that we also want to cover 7 days a week, and we want them to be able to do that.
What was the on-the-job training like for you guys once you got out of school? What was that process like? When would you first become comfortable to feel like I can do this? I can fly the plane without the co-pilot.
I want Bill to talk.
That probably takes several years.
Yes.
My first
1 to 2, 1 to 2, 3 to 5.
5, I think, before you're feeling pretty good about it. Depends on your volume, how busy you are. You got to do enough cases to do stupid shit, and you got to do enough cases to do things wrong. That sounds weird, but what do you learn from? You don't learn from the easy case.
You got to crash the plane a couple of times.
Yeah. You learn. The biggest thing in intervention for me is knowing when to stop, when to walk away, when to not start something in the first place. Get to the point where you don't have to prove you can fix it. When I'm not proving to anybody I can fix this blockage, I think if I start messing with this, I'm going to have a lot of problems. So that's an issue I have with some of these CHIP programs, which is what I would call super complex coronary work, that you do 3 years of intervention and then you do 1 year of these CHIP procedures. And I don't know how many CHIP procedures somebody could expect in a year. 200. How much?
There's no way they're doing 200.
Yeah. So it's not a ton. And then, are they ready to start doing that right away? I'm a little skeptical. They have the knowledge base and they've handled the equipment, but it's very different when there's nobody standing behind you. So when something goes wrong.
What he's talking about mainly is chronic total occlusions. Usually it's not just people with multivessel occlusive coronary disease with a bad EF as far as CHIP that I would say. I mean, that to me is stuff we're trained on working on. It's CTOs. And so I've had some CTOs put on my schedule recently. And when I say put on my schedule, meaning I didn't put them there. Like I didn't meet the patient in clinic to talk to them about it. So I sit with the patient, I sit with the family. I say, how are you doing at home? What do you do? What's the day look like? How do you feel? And they say, well, no, I do pretty good. I do that. I said, well, what gets you short of breath? And they give you a spectrum. And so you get to understand like, all right. And you know what? Some people may take issue with this and that's fine with me. I'm who I am and I'm a doctor, but I say, you sound like you're doing pretty good at home. So we're going to work on this. We're going to try to fix it, and if we don't, that's fine. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to hurt you. But if someone says, man, I can't walk from my bedroom to the bathroom, I'm so short of breath, well, we're going to check their LVEP and we'll work a little harder on trying to fix it because we want to improve that person's quality of life. What you don't want to do is somebody that has a pretty good quality of life become dead. Yeah. That's a non-ideal outcome.
I asked him, can you do what you want to within reason? That's what and if you can't, what stops you? And then sometimes you have to give them examples. Can you walk through Walmart without stopping? Can you walk through
Walmart's a great option. If you want to get bougier, you can ask them about Costco, but those
All right. So, recruiting and hiring is one thing, retaining is something else. They used to say, and I don't know if it's still true, 50% of people don't stay in the group that they join right out of training. So there's a lot of movement. I'm not in the same group I was when I came to Tallahassee, and there's different reasons for that.
I think a lot of that has to do with volume and culture. So if the culture is super toxic or there's not enough volume, that's a reason for people to move. I've been blessed in that where I came, literally almost everybody in the group had been there in their entire careers. And I plan on spending my entire career. And I got 3 guys that are around my age that have been here about 8 years, like myself. And we've hired 2 below us. And I don't see anybody going anywhere. They're getting paid well. They have unlimited volume. We have a pretty good culture. And yet still, Jordy, we can't hire.
Wow.
Like, I have spent time with people. We have interviewed people. We say, look, you're going to make great money. It's a great town. It's great to raise a family. It's a good hospital. You're getting taken care of. And yet we cannot hire. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. We have pretty much anything you want from an interventional toolkit perspective. And I tell them we have it all. Some places you can't have it all. You can have this or you can have that. We have just about everything. There's nothing that I'm saying I lack.
Tori, what Bill's talking about is tools. So sometimes the hospital will not support a physician to do a new procedure, use a new tool, have tools that are in the same platform but are different companies. And so hospitals that are very supportive of physicians will have all those. Like our EP guys, there's 3 new ablation things, PFA something. They've got all 3 mapping systems. They have everything they want, but not every hospital gets that. That's what Bill's talking about.
Sure. Yeah. So some other reasons that got discussed in the social media and cardiology business releases and stuff, reasons why people may not be going to interventional cardiology, and this is near and dear to Jordy's heart, radiation exposure, lifetime, and orthopedic problems in interventional cardiology. So as somebody that works in radiation protection, Jordy, are you seeing a big demand for trying to get less lead, more protection? What are you seeing?
Without question, it's been something that our conversations have started over with people who are bringing in new physicians because of the demand that the new wave of caretakers are putting on that subject, on radiation protection. How much time am I going to spend in lead? What's the lead consist of? What's the quality of the garments that they'll be in? How much is it going to weigh on you physically? All of those questions are now seemingly being asked in the space that I'm specifically in every day, where those conversations seem to be very prevalent. It seems like they're asked routinely from people that are coming in, and has much more educated the older guard on being cognizant of that, paying attention to it.
So radiation is hard to measure the outcomes, but orthopedic pain is very real to you. So the radiation issue, like someday you may have cataracts, some people may get cancers, but the orthopedic pain, you know that day, every day. And so there are plenty of movies, documentaries about all these cardiologists that have terrible pain. Some of them have cancer. But James Hermiller, the past president of SCI, said this is the number one issue for interventional cardiologists is reducing the risk of orthopedic injury and the radiation exposure. And I myself, I'm young, I'm 42, although I feel old. And I got an MRI on my back the other day, and I got a bulging disc, and I got some other stuff going on, and I get terrible back pain that flares up, and I'm not being a shill. This is real. G-Lift has helped me out quite a bit. The other thing that's helped me out is being cognizant of how long I'm in the lead, getting out of it as soon as possible, but also how I move in the lab, because I do peripheral procedures, which are very different than coronary as far as how you move. And now I say, you know what? I'm not going to make this weird movement. Please hand me that over there. Because I love efficiency, right? So I know what I want, so I want to grab it. I'm not going to do that anymore because I don't want my back in weird positions. I'm not going to contort myself to reach under the table to grab the pedal and bring it towards myself. I'm going to ask the staff, hey, could you please get the pedal over here?
I do that all the time. Grab the pedals for me. I used to just get it myself.
Correct, and it
But
kills you.
these are pedals that have a bar which you can grab with your toes. You kind of slip your toes under it.
Depending on how the bag is placed.
Right. If the bag's too tight, it's hard. But you're constantly picking that up with your right foot and moving it. So I don't know how much it weighs, 5 pounds. And I find myself typically leaning on my left leg when I'm doing cases, because the right leg, you're stepping on one or two different pedals. And, full transparency, I've got pretty severe spinal stenosis. I don't want to have surgery on it. And, I played full contact football for 9 years. Maybe that has something to do with it, but, wearing lead for 25 years. And it didn't really occur to me. I know my hip hurts sometimes, but the guy's like, your left hip is awful, which I find very interesting. Why wouldn't they both be? Why would my left one be a lot worse? And I think I lean on my left leg when I'm doing procedures. And like Brian said, doing peripheral procedures, especially tibial access, the controls are always where I need to lean over the table to get to the ankle. It doesn't matter how tall the patient is, the control is always right in the way, and I got to get them to move that. But orthopedic things are real. So the lighter the lead, that helps a ton. So some cases are just long too.
Yes. Bill, this is very esoteric, but interesting you say you use the pedal with your right leg. So it makes sense, majority for us. We're all like, the majority of people are right-handed. You drive a car with your right foot. It makes sense to put your right foot on the pedal. The way I was trained was move that pedal over to the left, because the attending doesn't want to be mucking around with you as you're training if it's on the right. So I was trained to use it with my left foot, actually. So it's the opposite doctrine.
Well, that's good. I mean, the techs turn the light off and on multiple times a day because they step on the light pedal accidentally. And I tell them, if you turn the light off again, I'm going to stab you with a scalpel.
How different is that conversation had? Because it does feel, I don't have the reference of history, being that I'm pretty new to the trade, but it feels like these conversations of incoming physicians, caretakers have put a much more emphasis on orthopedic injury, on radiation protection, on lead equivalent was, what's the equivalency of the lead? How new are those conversations?
I think those are all very new. I mean, we're cognizant, I can remember in training, let's see.
So while he's looking at that real quick, Bob Foster was a guy that started Rampart, and I met Bob before Rampart came out, and I went to train with him on venous ablation, and Bob said, hey man, look out for this thing called Rampart. I said, what is it? He described this radiation reduction shield, and he said to me, he goes, you know why I have this vein clinic? It's because I hurt my back so bad I couldn't do coronary procedures or peripheral procedures anymore. And so he invented this company that's a system of shields that reduces radiation. And that was the first I'd ever heard of it. I was probably 37 at the time. It's probably 5 years ago. But in the last 5 years, this topic has become
volcanic.
Yes, it is everywhere, and it makes sense. Like, we really do beat ourselves up doing these things, and we need to have long careers, especially when we're talking about people not going into the field anymore, right? We're going to be expected to work a long time, and all of us care about patients and taking care of people and being there for people. My son, I was late to the podcast here. I was picking up my son and my daughter, and my son goes, Daddy, do you work on weekends? And I said, I do. I work that way. And he said, why do you have to work on weekends? It's like, because, honey, people got to get taken care of. It's just what it is. It's not an option.
You can't just move the hot weekends off.
Saturday to Sunday. People are still getting sick and dying. And to me, interventional cardiology is such a wonderful field to get into, because you get to change someone's life many times in minutes. They come in, they're dying, they're feeling terrible. You open up their artery, they're doing great. It's not always like that, but many times it is. And because we have wire and catheter skills, we do a lot of other things that can help people, limb salvage, pulmonary emboli, stuff like this. But it's a lot of time in lead. It's a lot of time standing there, and it causes a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So
You're pretty. You mentioned you're young, you being 42, and I've spent some time with you conferences and been around you. You're in shape. I mean, you're still moving around well. What was the first? When was the first time that you felt it? When was the first time that you were like, man, this lead is way?
Probably about, so, as an interventionalist, you're going to start your career at 33, 34. That's about the age you're going to start. Now, the years you're training before that, I just you're out in practice.
Yeah.
So I started getting back pain at probably 38.
Wow. Yeah.
And I definitely need to work 20 some more years, not only because I need to, I got a family, but because I want to. I mean, I love what I do, and I want to not be here for my community. So I got a long time to work, so I got to take care of myself.
Yeah. Everything good, Dr. Dixon?
Yeah, well, some bradycardia after a TAVR, so they called my EP partner, who told them, I think they probably need a temporary pacer.
Listen, call Bill.
Call Dixon. So I said, well, I'm doing my podcast right now, so see how she does for 30 minutes. I'll go in and look at her. I try not to put temporaries in. The blood pressure is 150. She's fine, probably. The other thing is, if there's not an ICU bed, our cath lab team gets stuck sitting with them in the cath lab, which is a problem.
Seems like that responsibility might lie with the individual that did said TAVR.
Well, he's not on call. I am.
So this is 2 days later? When was the TAVR?
Tuesday.
This is a long time later. So this is an outpatient now.
Yeah, she went home.
Okay.
Yeah, she went home and is coming back. I mean, she has AFib too, so I'll take a look at her. So I think one of the things that's been stressed, to answer a question you asked a minute ago, Jordy, is self-love. I think, the people coming through training are taught, or it's emphasized, to take care of yourself. We never really had that, it's just you work.
Yeah.
You work till the work is done, and that's just the way it is. You can't call time out at noon because you're on call the night before. And that's one thing I think some people don't understand coming out of training. Medicine is a 24/7, 365 job. Somebody is responsible all the time. If it's not you, it's one of your partners. And so you take turns being responsible. And so, that's just the way it is. If you didn't like that, then you shouldn't get into medicine, or you should do dermatology or something where
administrative work.
Yeah. So they're not used to that. I heard about a guy that, his practice wanted him to go to a satellite office every Monday, and it was a decent drive. It was about an hour. And, he wrote an email saying that he did not want to go on a Monday if he was on call Sunday night, because if he didn't get good sleep, he would be afraid for his safety driving an hour back and forth to this satellite office. Just completely boggled my mind. But now, of course, if something happens to him, you're screwed, because he sent this email, saying he's worried about falling asleep. Sure. That's never even entered my mind. I mean, I'll be up all night doing STEMI, then I go to my satellite office an hour away, and that's just, if I don't go, then we cancel 30 appointments,
And Jordy, canceling appointments, it's not like they disappear. They need to be seen. You have to share them in somewhere. We'll say, to temper what Bill's saying a little bit, is there is some happy medium we can find. What he's saying is going too far the other way, and he's saying, hey, we were trained this way and it's the right thing to do, and that is true. But we can't sacrifice ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know where that happy medium is, but it's not the opposing argument that he's talking about. That's not the happy medium.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people use extenders, to answer the phone at night. That's a big deal. You could hire nocturnists who only work at night. You may find it's hard to find people who work during the day. Much less work at night. But we're gonna be in real trouble as people retire and we're not backfilling them. So then, what do you do if you're short staffed? Then hospitals There are people out there that do locums, so you're trying to fill in with locums people, and the hospitals won't react. What'll happen is we'll just keep working as hard as we can, killing ourselves until we can't do it anymore, and then there won't be anybody behind us, and then they'll be screwed.
But what we don't need, Jordy, is shift work. So the cool thing about cardiology is there's continuity of care. So you're not only going to see them inpatient, you're going to see that same person outpatient, and you are their doctor. And so if something you've done or something you're working on isn't going right, you keep working with them and make it right. When you have shift work, there's no responsibility, right? You see them, you've done your best. I'm not saying they're not doing their best. What I'm saying is you don't know when it doesn't go wrong or when it goes wrong to say, okay, well, let's do something different because you're gone. It's a shift. So I don't necessarily believe in shift work for cardiology. I definitely don't. Well, that's kind of the way they're talking about going, because they're talking about, limiting hours, better quality of life, all this sort of stuff. But you got to have continuity of care. You just have to. That's just being a physician.
Well, fellas, we're running up on the 35-minute mark. Let's talk a little parting shot for recruiting and what the message would be on the way out. Dr. Dixon.
I would probably, for people that are looking for a job, don't just think about the first 2 years, first year or two of the job. Think about it as a long-term decision. Don't let the first set of numbers sway you one way or the other. You don't want to be at a place where you get paid well, but you're absolutely miserable. So you've done all this training for a reason. So find a place where you can use the training that you have. Whether you like the people you work with, you can never tell till you get on the ground. But as much as I sound jaundiced and calloused, absolutely love what I do. And I never mind taking care of somebody sick day or night. That's it.
I'd say, small differences in pay should not be fretted over. You're going to make plenty of money. You want to be where you can be happy and effective. Be a place that you enjoy living and that there's plenty of volume for you to help a lot of people.
Good stuff tonight, docs. Thank you all very much. Another great session for our listeners who will come away very well informed. Dr. Dixon, best of luck this afternoon with the case and what goes on there. We will talk again next week.
You've been listening to Blue Collar ICs, real conversations from the front lines of interventional cardiology. Special thanks to hosts Jordy Collada, Bill Dixon, Brian Brown, and Todd Floor for sharing their insight, experience, and perspective. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, rate, and share the show. Join us next time for more real-world cardiology, only on Blue Collar ICs. Blue Collar ICs is a production of the RealWorks Media Network, Tallahassee, Florida,